Hello, and thank you for joining me in Annie Stories. Today, I'll be reading a tale of Japanese origin that had been retold by Teresa Pierce Williston. So without further ado, let us begin our journey of Japanese tales. The Tongue-Cut Sparrow. In a little old house in a little old village in Japan lived a little old man and his little old wife. One morning, when the old woman slid open the screens, which form the sides of all Japanese houses, she saw on the doorstep a poor little sparrow. She took him up gently and fed him. Then she held him in the bright morning sunshine until the cold dew was dried from his wings. Afterward, she let him go, so that he might fly home to his nest, but he stayed to thank her with his songs. Each morning, when the pink on the mountain tops told that the sun was near, the sparrow perched on the roof of the house and sang out his joy. The old man and woman thanked the sparrow for this, for they liked to be up early and at work. But near them there lived a cross old woman who did not like to be awakened so early. At last she became so angry that she caught the sparrow and cut his tongue. Then the poor little sparrow flew away to his home, but he could never sing again. When the kind woman knew what had happened to her pet, she was very sad. She said to her husband, "Let us go and find our poor little sparrow." So they started together and asked of each bird by the wayside, "Do you know where the tongue-cut sparrow lives? Do you know where the tongue-cut sparrow went?" In this way, they followed until they came to a bridge. They did not know which way to turn, and at first could see no one to ask. At last they saw a bat hanging his head downward, taking his daytime nap. "Oh, friend bat, do you know where the tongue-cut sparrow went?" they asked. "Yes, over the bridge and up the mountain," said the bat. Then he blinked his sleepy eyes and was fast asleep again. They went over the bridge and up the mountain, but again they found two roads and did not know which to take. A little field mouse peeped through the leaves and grass, so they asked him, "Do you know where the tongue-cut sparrow went?" "Yes, down the mountain and through the woods," said the field mouse. Down the mountain and through the woods they went, and at last came to the home of their little friend. When he saw them coming, the poor little sparrow was happy indeed. He and his wife and children all came and bowed their heads down to the ground to show their respect. Then the sparrow rose and led the old man and the old woman into his house, while his wife and children hastened to bring them boiled rice, fish, cress, and sake. After they feasted, the sparrow wished to please them still more, so he danced for them what is called the sparrow dance. When the sun began to sink, the old man and woman started for home. The sparrow brought out 2 baskets. "I would like to give you one of these," he said. "Which will you take?" One basket was large and looked very full, while the other one seemed small and light. The old people thought they would not take the large basket, for that might have the sparrow's treasure in it. So they said, "The way is long, and we are very old, so please let us take the smaller one." They took it and walked home, over the mountain and across the bridge, happy and content. When they reached their home, they decided to open the basket and see what the sparrow had given them. Within the basket, they found many rolls of silk and piles of gold, enough to make them rich. So they were more grateful than ever to the sparrow. The cross old woman who had cut the sparrow's tongue was peering in through the screen when they opened their basket. She saw the rolls of silk and the piles of gold, and planned how she might get some for herself. The next morning, she went to the kind woman and said, "I am so sorry that I cut the tongue of your sparrow. Please tell me the way to his home, so that I may go to him and tell him I am sorry." The kind woman told her the way, and she set out. She went across the bridge, over the mountain, and through the woods. At last she came to the home of the little sparrow. He was not so glad to see this old woman, yet he was very kind to her and did everything to make her feel welcome. They made a feast for her, and when she started home, the sparrow brought out 2 baskets as before. Of course, the woman chose the large basket, for she thought that would have even more wealth than the other one. It was very heavy and caught on the trees as she was going through the wood. She could hardly pull it up the mountain with her, and she was all out of breath when she reached the top. She did not get to the bridge until it was dark. Then she was so afraid of dropping the basket into the river that she scarcely dared to step. When at last she reached home, she was so tired that she was half dead, but she pulled the screens close shut so that no one could look in, and opened her treasure. Treasure indeed! A whole swarm of horrible creatures burst from the basket the moment she opened it. They stung her and bit her. They pushed her and pulled her. They scratched her and laughed at her screams. At last she crawled to the edge of the room and slid aside the screen to get away from the pests. The moment the door opened, they swooped down upon her, picked her up, and flew away with her. Since then, nothing has ever been heard of the old woman. The end. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this short tale with me. Please stay tuned for another one tomorrow, and do consider subscribing to my channel to support me. Goodbye for now, and see you again in my next video.